Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I did this super simple beach scene. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. I will have all of the supplies that I've used down in the description below, along with the link to the real-time version of this if you're interested, but let's just get right into it. So the very first thing I do here is decide how much sky and how much land I want in my painting, and I just use a pencil and a ruler to kind of go across and decide that. And I use a ruler for this because you do want the horizon line to be straight. Then I just quickly wet the sky area, and I'm going in with my phthalo blue here. Now this is one of my favorite watercolors from Winsor and Newton, and then I'm using my quinacridone rose to kind of mix in with that. And I lay down the blue first on the top of the sky and the bottom, and then the pink in the middle because I want that pink to show through. And then I go ahead and put a little bit of blue in there to kind of get some hint of some purple in the sky. Then I go ahead and I mix up a little bit of yellow ochre and some sepia, and I'm starting to do the sand down below. Now I'm not going to put a whole lot of detail into the sand that's close to the water because that's going to be covered up once we start putting in our little brush area. And then I just add a little bit more sepia into that, or a little bit of burnt sienna, depending if I want it to be a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler. Now in the reference photo, I can see it's almost like little footprints in the sand that's close to us in the foreground. So I'm doing this wet on wet here, and I put a little bit of that color down, and then I'm going in, and towards the bottom of the footprints, I put just some sepia in there. And then on the top of it, I'm going to let it be lighter. So it looks like as the print kind of dips in, it's going to be a little bit darker. And then towards the top edge, it's a little bit lighter. You could also do this wet on dry and just soften out those edges with a separate brush. But I wanted to see how this would work doing it wet on wet just after I put that yellow ochre layer down, and I kind of like the softness that I got from this. Then I start putting the ocean area in, and I'm using phthalo blue again. I want to make sure that it stays a little bit darker towards the horizon and then a little bit lighter as it comes closer to the beach. Then I go ahead and take my sap green and I mix up a sap green, and then I mix it in with the phthalo blue just to get a little bit of a darker green, more blue green. And now we're going to make some foreground brush. Now I'm starting with some shorter ones at first. So all I do is create some curved lines, and I want to keep in mind the direction that the wind is going. So in the reference photo, everything was leaning a little bit more to the left. So I'm going to keep all of my lines leaning to the left. Some are going to be sticking up a little bit more. Some are going to be a little bit more curved. The taller ones are going to be more curved, and the shorter ones are going to be a little bit straighter. And then once I get that line in, I just create little tiny lines coming from that going into the left-hand side. Now, I find it easiest if I do this quick and kind of make some wispy lines coming out of there. But you can take your time doing this as well. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then I go in with my next layer, and I'm creating some that are a little bit longer, and you'll see as they get longer, they're going to start to get a little bit more curved because the wind is kind of picking up and pushing them over a little bit more. Now I stuck with more wispy branches like this because this is what I like, but you could do any type of foliage. You could do some that's a little bit thicker, some that's just little grass sticks, and I do leave just a couple of those lines in there. But you can see as they're getting a little bit taller now, those wisps coming out to the side are getting a little bit longer, and it really gives the illusion that the wind is kind of grabbing them and taking them. Now I'm not worried about the sticks going right up to the sand because we are going to come in and put a little bit of foliage between where the bottom of these grasses are and where the sand is, so just try to get it close enough. Now here I'm coming in and just creating a little bit of that foliage down there, and I'm just doing little tiny random dots and little thicker dots and some thinner dots and some lines just to create the look of some foliage, some texture, some grass going down there, just to be able to connect our grass to the sand area. And then I take a little bit of that foliage and kind of bring it down onto the sand as well. Now I'm creating some of those longer grasses. And really take your time. You know, You can use a liner brush for this, and that might be a little bit easier for you to get some of those long, thin lines. I'm using a number 2 Silver Black Velvet here. This is pretty much my go-to brush when I need some small, thin lines. It holds a lot of water and paint, so I can get a lot done without having to go back in and keep dipping it. But if you're having trouble with shorter brushes like this, then try out like a rigger brush or a liner brush, and that might be a little bit easier for you to control. And now you can really see what I mean. The taller ones are really leaning over a little bit more. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to subscribe and hit the like button. It really does help me out. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.